Welcome to the 30-minute hour. It's the personal development podcast for entrepreneurs and executive leaders who are looking to level up and become unstoppable. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Joining me as always, you know him as the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire, and all around good guy, Ted Fells.
Happy Monday.
It is indeed a happy Monday. These Mondays are going faster and faster. We're already setting our clocks forward, Ted.
Man, I'm telling you, when you set your clock forward, do you really lose an hour of sleep, or is it just that night?
Yeah, you lose it that night.
But after that, it's the same sleep. It's the same sleep.
Yeah, after that. But everybody talks about it for the rest of the week. That's how it
Yes,
goes.
I,
Right? Everybody,
I lost that hour of sleep. Every night
that
I
hour
lost
of sleep is killing me. Man,
it.
I
It's
can't do
killing me.
anything.
It's killing me. Go to bed early. You go to bed at 8 o'clock. You're still going to bed at 8 o'clock.
There you go. That doesn't change.
Mm.
All right. Well, now that we got that out of the way,
We help someone. We help someone
we
with
did.
that.
Earl, I don't know if you knew this. This is an educational show. We just
Yeah, we
help
try to help
everybody.
people.
Right.
I'm learning.
And the education is going to go to a whole other level. Today we're going to talk about 3 secrets to becoming an ethical innovator, and we're just going to go ahead and introduce the man of the hour, who's going to really enlighten us on what it means to be an ethical innovator and principles that he's adopted and embraced to run a successful company. So he's a visionary leader and ethical innovator. He's dedicated to shaping the future of cyber AI and national security. He's the CEO of Aperio Global. He leads with a higher purpose and he ensures that technological advancements serve mission critical needs and adhere to the higher standards of truth, trust, and transparency, the foundation of both his leadership and his faith. And I don't know if it pains me to announce this next part, but I'll go ahead since it's on my sheet. Earl is a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
I am.
Good.
All right.
Fellow
We have an alpha.
D9. Fellow D9.
That's right. We can have a panhill meeting. We got an alpha, a kappa, and a Q.
I think we almost have it covered. We almost
got it covered.
We got all our bases covered here. All right. So please join me in welcoming to the 30-minute hour, Earl Stafford Jr.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Humbled to be here.
Yeah, welcome, man. It's truly an honor to have you on. I know we've been wanting to do this for quite a while. So you and I, we met at Hampton University.
We did. On the hallowed grounds of Hampton, the Hampton University. Yes.
That's right.
Proud to say that we met there.
Yes, absolutely. Ted, Hampton's hallowed grounds. You didn't know that, Ted.
I knew where this was going. I knew right away where this was going. That's all right.
You can see it. You can see where it was going.
That's
how
all
it was
right.
trending.
That's all right.
But now, so we met at Hampton, and I'm curious, like what was your vision for your career at that time?
Well, Eric and Ted, first and foremost, thank you for having me. As I said earlier, it is a true honor to be here. When I stepped on the campus of Hampton University, I had aspired at that time to be an electrical engineer, in part because at that time it was one of the growing fields for individuals to be a part of. There was a vision of a true career. However, as I began to matriculate, I found myself shifting, as so many college students do over their time, to another major, and I ended up with economics. So economics more so because for me it was a foundation that's provided a few stems and diversity to what I could do across my career. Business being the tentacle of choice.
Yeah, I just think a lot of people just think that you just have to have it all figured out. You just, this is the only way you have to go. But sometimes what you do ends up evolving, right?
I would agree. I mean, that's life as you laid out. Nobody comes out the womb knowing what they are and what they're going to be. So, to your point, the more we embrace that creativity, flexibility, adaptability, I think the more wisdom we would amass.
Yeah. No, you said it. I agree with that 100%. So it's like if you could time travel and go back and be a mentor to that Hampton version of yourself, what advice would you give to that younger version of yourself?
Be courageous, fail forward,
Mm.
fail fast, and because of my faith, there are no mistakes. God makes no
Oof.
mistakes. So even though you may want your flesh to define it as a mistake, it's an opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a Stanford University, I think it was Steve Jobs. He did a Stanford University speech, and he talks about this idea that the dots only connect in retrospect, meaning when you look back, that's when you see that you thought this was a mistake, but it was just the dots connecting the way you really were supposed to be.
No. I will tell you, one of my guilty pleasures is strolling through Instagram, not strolling, but scrolling through Instagram from time to time, more so the business pages. And just yesterday morning, I saw a post that said, if the Lord gave you what you asked for, would you still want it? And I am very thankful for my perceived mistakes. As I said earlier, they're really opportunities, the pivots, the pruning that aligns you with your purpose. I might have to write that down. Pruning that aligns with purpose. So uh, I am a true believer that there are no mistakes.
Yeah, man. Let me tell you that, Ted. This show is off to a great start. This is he's dropping boulders, and I think that really applies. And I've just found that to be true. Everything you said. And I have to say, I mean, I admire just the spiritual foundation that just comes through the screen and comes across as far as how you're guiding your decisions. Ted, you're about to say something.
I was just leaning forward. I didn't want to miss anything.
I will say this, Eric. I haven't known Ted as long as I've known you, but I've known Ted. And when I first started business, Ted was one of the first, I think the first five people that I sat down and had lunch with to glean from his wisdom. So when he says that, please know, like you, I've been on the other side of that comment, receiving those boulders. So,
Well, the check is in the mail, Earl. I appreciate that dropping in there. Thank you.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, good stuff. So let's talk about your company, the CEO of Aperio Global. Who is your customer, and how do you help them?
I should say I know who my customer is, and maybe I want to say who my customer isn't. Right, my customer is not the one who is married to the past, inflexible to the wave of transformation that's before us, and the need for that adaptability so that we can chart the future. So my customer are individuals who generally have mission criticality before them, decision confidence, decision need, and maybe I should say understanding the impact of actionable intelligence from data and their environments. Now, I answered you that way because the utility of what Aperio Global brings to the market, the cyber data, AI, and post quantum cryptography, is needed across all sectors, industries, and ways of life. So I wanted to frame it where I wasn't segmenting, but there's a centrality to what we bring to the market that we have to navigate as a business.
So just for our listeners that may not kind of understand the space, what do you what do you do? How do you help companies?
Earl, what he's saying is, man, give it to us in some real simple language, man. Break that thing on down. What is it?
So let me break it down. We provide subject matter expertise primarily to date across the Department of Defense, some supporting the intelligence communities, as well as the federal sector. And we have cyber analysts, cyber planners, cyber policy, subject matter experts. We have individuals who perform what we call hands on keyboard that are actually defending networks. Um, there's only so much that I can say. The preponderance of work that we do is classified at varying levels, but we bring subject matter expertise, data scientists, as well as what I would call AI engineers and AI architects for mission critical work across DoD, IC, and federal markets. And in the last 6 months, we have commercial markets that we are beginning to service as you've seen this onslaught or this wave of AI consideration across varying sectors. Ted, was that okay?
I think that was much better. That was much better.
All right.
Thank you.
I
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah. You gotta work with these folks, Eric. We get in here, we got to, everybody don't understand that.
Well, I could sum it up that we're innovators across those markets. So we don't focus on being butts in seats as some reference. We're solutioning and we're having an impact that I'm proud to say.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, congratulations to you and all the success you've had. I did want to let's talk about your dad for briefly. Like, what role has he had in your success? Or what has his example meant to you?
I could take that question in so many different ways. So one, the level of being a best friend, which is an honor as a father and a son. I had the privilege of working for him and his company for almost 20 plus years. So I came up through varying levels. I've had his influence, his wisdom, his covering, his direction, his support, every day of my life. But to be able to say that across my educational and business career is not a story that I hear very often. And now, being a CEO, my father serves as our chief advisor. He is one that I talk to 3 to 4 times a day, and he always seems to provide a perspective. Even though I think I've taken the baton from him, he's like, slow your roll. You don't know everything. There are some things, but I will tell you the key factor for me outside of the honor of a father-son relationship is that the perspective is not for where the company is. The perspective is for where the company is going, right? So I want to really focus on. I started answering one of your questions with who our customer wasn't. Sometimes no is more important than yes. Knowing what you don't want to do, to have that sage advice of what if, right? I am representing my father in this moment. I've had challenges and pitfalls and I had to navigate them. So if you can take some of this sage advice, you won't have, Lord willing, the same pitfalls. And we are a company that listens, that adopts and applies. So I don't want to be too lofty in how I'm responding, but I literally can tell you, outside of my wife, my best friend.
Mm.
Right.
Man, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that really is. I mean, it's just a blessing to have worked in that environment, with your father and see how he conducts business and then it's nothing like that because I mean when you're an entrepreneur you just kind of jump into it, but those that have had I know another guy that you all probably know, Gerald Boyd, who
Hmm.
went to Hampton as well, and he had the same type of situation, but he's a capital, Eric. I thought I dropped that too. But working with his father and their company and learning and all of that, and then being able to start his own company and having his father be able to have some influence in his business. I know it helps a lot because I can think, I did not have that situation. I had to kind of jump into it and figure it out. And then you start getting, advice from others that comes from a different place, right? You to get that advice from a place of love, and being able to work in that environment along, with your dad. I mean, I could just see how that could be so, beneficial.
I would also say there's no sugarcoating.
Yeah,
Mm.
So the advice pierces through the position to the person,
sure.
right? So No one knows, on average, no one knows you better than your parents.
Mm.
He can read me in a meeting just like I believe I can read him. And then there's that counsel outside of the office where it's like, hey, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm feeling, this is my perspective. And being persons of faith, he said, pray about it. Don't ever take anything that I say for face value. Always go to your knees and let the
Mm.
Holy Spirit guide your discernment and application thereof. So, that's probably my faith is the best advice. Even in tough times, is like no test, no testimony.
Oh, definitely. So look, we're talking tough times, right? That seems like a good segue into, where we are now. I mean, as all of us being entrepreneurs in the government space and how things are a bit different now. Like, I mean, how, anything that you can share on how you look at, the current landscape and what you're going to do to kind of pivot to, in an environment that's changing. I mean, government layoffs across the government, federal government, contracts, being cut off. I mean, they're really trying to get down into like really like what's mission critical. And all of us seem to think that our work is important,
Sure,
right?
sure.
So I mean, how are you dealing with that?
I'm going to answer you three different ways, Ted. One, faith, as always, is that
Absolutely.
when you in seasons of uncertainty, I like to say anything that drives you to your knees is a blessing. So the
Mm,
unknown, if it's causing you to increase your prayer life, it's a good thing. The
mm,
Lord doesn't allow anything to happen, so we have to be prepared for it. When it comes to the actual marketplace, I think from a business perspective, you want to help the agenda to the best of your ability, but the pillars of the agenda that are accretive and good for all. So we have a rising debt across this country, right? And that debt ceiling is continually going higher. We have generations after us that will be barren economically if we don't address the problem. So my economic background says look at the environment, look at the factors, and not necessarily get tied into the position emotionally just yet. What does the market need? The market needs to be fiscally responsible for the future. Now, we can disagree on how to do that, right? And I think that brings us back to maybe the corpus of your question is, hey, how would I navigate? Well, you used the word mission criticality. What is it about the United States that is critical that no matter what has to get done? Those are the things that we seek to stay focused and nestled against. But we have great compassion for those who have supported other tangential aspects of how the country does its work. Right. So agencies that are going away and just pure initiatives that on Friday have a staff and then on Monday they do not. There is great compassion in my heart for individuals who have to take care of their livelihood, their children, their aging parents, or medical bills. And now they're in a place of wondering, how is this going to work out? So that don't take my response to be barren of compassion. I have great compassion. But I believe as a leader to navigate these waters, it is, if you can, assimilate to what is most important during these uncertain times. Everybody's not going to be able to do that. That goes and opens up another aspect for innovation. How can you adopt these innovations, go into business for yourself, right? There are varying ways that may be deemed atypical. People who are in the federal government and used to, like, this is how I make my living, you know in some cases are going to have to reposition and pivot. Right, there are a lot of p's in this in this time together, but we'll have to pivot. right? Prayer, preparation, pivot, purpose. There are quite a bit of P's, but you have to pivot because I don't believe that we're in a season where you can sit still, complain, protest, and then there will be a recognizable change in a short period of time.
Yeah.
Great.
No, yeah, I think you bring up some great points, and it's the old saying, anytime there's a crisis, there's the danger, but there's also the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And I think when you pivot, you have to pivot toward what is, and sometimes that's when God is talking to you, right? Sometimes you get comfortable, and it's interesting, right? That the government is possibly the most secure, and I guess comfortable job. Get you a good government job,
Right.
but that comfort zone is being rattled. So I think yeah, I agree with you 100% that people need to be looking. Okay, what is God saying to me? God is possibly pointing me in another direction.
And I think we have to be open to that
Yes.
in all facets of our life, right? I know we wake up on average and we have a plan for the day, but that plan is not optimized for what's best for us, right? It's either emotionally driven, it's environmentally driven. There's something that's driving that. So to your point, you have to remain flexible. It's difficult for us as an organization. I will tell you, I made a decision that the company was making a pivot in January. I said two things. I said, one, we are no longer a government contracting firm. We are a global innovative firm. Second, we are going to focus more on products and solutions than we are on providing services to the federal government in a non dilutional way, right? So we're not giving up any work, but we are going to push to what is really needed for the progression of the country and for some of these missions, which are proper technologies so that we can be more productive and more efficient where we need to be.
This is, hearing that, Earl, this is, I think, a great opportunity for us small businesses, right? Because we can pivot, right? We can change, adjust. Like you said, you woke up one day and you said, hey, this is what we're going to do, right? But when you're this big battleship of a company, right, you got to change so much to get that to happen and to get that message out and culture changes and all that. We just got to get a couple people together and just say, look, this is what we're going to do, right? We're going to figure out how we're going to do this. And you can you can cry a little bit, right? That some things have changed, your cheese has been moved around a bit, right? I tell people, I said, it's almost like you had all of these folders and documents on your desk, and then they just got moved all out the way, right?
Right.
And it's like you can be sad about that for a moment, but you got to get back up and get back in the game and start figuring out what that is. And I do think that that's easier with the smaller agile organization that can come up with, this is what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, especially, you know, and I don't, just like I look at this environment right now, it looks like things are changing by the day, right? So if you're not watching, if you're one of those people that say, I'm just not going to watch the news, I'm not going to follow this stuff because it's just, you can get left behind because things are changing by the day, and your messaging needs to change and your strategy needs to change and all that if you're going to be able to survive. And that's what we got to do. We got to survive and thrive.
And Ted, to that point, what I would say is that of so is the arsenal of tools and capabilities that are available to us. So as we go back and we reference this time of uncertainty, what would this look like if this happened when we did not have AI generated tools at our fingertips?
Mm.
What would have happened if the pivot that we're speaking of required a 4 year or 6 year degree and countless debt? So the Lord knows what He's doing. He knows exactly what He's doing. We have to look at this, in my humble opinion, through the right lens. It's an opportunity. Going back to what we said earlier, it may not be what we want to do, but I sure am thankful that Noah and his family built that ark, you know, in the midst of ridicule and years of ridicule at that, right? So we have to take that mentality. So small, independent, nimble, fast, and we get to, it's advantageous when we have these capabilities. You can build a business plan in 30 minutes, a world class business plan in 30 minutes. You can find a blue ocean, for those who know the term, and
Hmm.
create a market. But because some are not thinking that way, precious time is ticking, as others are beginning to think that way. And we stand as an organization striving to think that way. We don't want to boil the ocean, but we can bring ethical, faith-based, uh, impactful change to our clients and to the industries that we operate in. And there's nothing stopping anyone else from doing the same. So I want this to be an inspirational dialogue, right? This is not a woe is me. This is an opportunity, and we're stronger together.
No, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk more about this ethical innovator. So first, like, how did this become a focus for you? Really, just this idea of being an ethical innovator.
Once again, my faith. There's, I don't know, if there's anything we can't talk about, but there is one day that I focus on every day that I open my eyes, and that's my judgment day. And on judgment day, I don't want the Lord asking me, why I didn't do something. I want the world to know who I am, but more importantly, whose I am. Right? Before any other title, you need to know whose I am. So I never wanted to be a CEO. I was adamantly against being a CEO. I wasn't one of those sons that say, "Hey, I want to do what my father did." I saw the long hours. I saw the or witnessed the missed family engagements. Right. I really saw the calluses. In a representative way for all the hard work that he was doing growing his organization, and I said that is not for me. And
Mm.
I will tell you, the Lord came to me in three different ways and three different times and said, "You're going to be a CEO." And I said, "Absolutely not." The second time, I have to say this: the Lord speaks one time, so He didn't come back to me three times. But there was another. The Spirit spoke and said, "You're going to be a CEO." And I said, "Absolutely not." And the third time, what I heard crystal clear, I was driving on 66, and I heard, "You are confusing this for a conversation." And I
Well,
immediately was convicted beyond belief. I said, "Who am I even to have a conversation? If I'm to be a CEO, I'm going to be a CEO." And as such, Aperio Global is not my company. Every individual who has joined Aperio Global has heard this. This is not my company. I happen to sit in the seat, but a rock can sit in the seat, and the Lord can do more with the rock if He so chose. What I am is I am only seeking to be a good steward. I would like for you to believe what I believe, but at a minimum, you have to subscribe to the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? We pray before meetings. We're about to implement a prayer list because we are a community. And I'm not saying everyone who is affiliated with the Aperio Global shares my faith, but they all know that I pray for them. I pray for their seed and their seed. I pray for their health. I pray for their well being. And what I found over time is that maybe this has nothing to do with the company growing in revenue and EBITDA and in the M&A market. And maybe this has everything to do with it being my walk and my purpose to sit in the seat to make sure that nobody is confused about whose I am and whose Aperio Global is. So don't want to be on the soapbox, but that is the source of that ethical consideration that you referenced. And truth, trust, and transparency, our three aims, are derived from that. I do not believe that you can establish trust without first offering truth. And in my humble opinion, there is no way to sustain trust without transparency. So that is the ecosystem by which we work. Uh, I will tell any customer that there is not a dollar worth my soul, nor is there a dollar worth the purpose of Aperio Global. We don't chase money. We chase purpose. We chase passion, and we chase impact.
so what advice do you have for the person watching us now, listening to us now? They want to be more innovative. They understand that, based on these times, they need to be thinking more innovatively. what advice do you, what can someone do to become more of an innovator?
Don't fall victim to the past.
Hmm.
In order to be an innovator or creative, you have to think outside what we've all heard, the box. Think outside the box. I don't think you should think tied to any structure. Now that might not be popular in some areas. I'm married to a creative. Trust you me, it's a part of my life. So an innovator is one who says this is how it's done today, but a tinkerer, right? There has to be a different way of doing this, right? We all have blind spots. Society has a blind spot. Technology has a blind spot, right? By default, you can only see 180 degrees. You have to turn around to see the other 180 to see what's behind you, right? So an innovator is thinking of how can I do it better, faster, with more impact, and then maybe even understanding what the problems really are, right? So part of my maturation in business was quality. So there's this concept of root cause analysis. Many people deal with the symptoms and they never ever get to what the root cause is. So I think an innovator is a curious person. An innovator is looking at how they can adopt, or at least at a minimum understand, the tools and the capabilities that is before them to do something different.
Good. I mean, Ted, certainly I'd welcome your thoughts. I mean, you're definitely somebody I consider to be an innovative thinker.
Man, you got me following Earl like that. That's a setup, man. I mean, ditto everything that he said. I mean, you know, I just think kind of like you talked about the box. I think as an innovator, I think you have to think as if there's no box, right? I mean, that's how you have to think about it. Like, I mean, you know, whatever that situation is, you know, I have a saying that I know my team's heard me say thousands of times, is you have to treat it as if you're locked in a room and you got to get out. Like, you can't just sit there. So whatever that issue is, whatever that challenge is, you gotta to come up with a way to assess that situation, come up with a strategy, and then execute. I mean, that's just it. No matter what it is, you just can't sit in that lock, that those closed doors, and think that somebody's going to come and let you out. So I just think innovation does that. I mean, it's, and innovation is, I think every time people think about innovation, they always think just technology, right? But it's truly people, processes, and technology is a part of it. Right? You can do something innovative, and it doesn't mean you're bringing in a new system. It just means it's a different way of doing things. Why continue to do the same thing the same way? And think that you're going to get some different results. Sometimes you know something's not working, right? But you just keep coming to work and you keep doing the same thing. You're just a hamster on that hamster wheel. Eric heard me say that you just go and go and go, and then the next day you wonder why you haven't, moved from being on that countertop that you were in, and that, on that wheel, right? So we have to figure out ways to get things done. And when we look at the government right now, right, you think about, people that have been in agencies for 20, 30 years doing the job, to get things done that they do the way they've always done it. Again, government's so big. That's the thing you hear people all the time say, the government is different. Well, it's different because, yeah, it's big, you know, it's not as easy to change something around like you might do a small company, but it can happen. It's just a little more painful because people have people are always concerned with change, right? Change is so like you going back to what you said about, how you said within your organization, this is what we're going to do and here's how we're going to pivot. Doing that within the government takes some time, but it can happen though. I mean, you go back to before this, you go back to COVID, right? You go back to Y2K. Each of these things required some change, even getting to the point of installing computer networks and adding internet access. Right? There was a time I remember working in the government. That's going to tell my age, but it was talking about internet. It's like, oh no, We have one computer with the internet, and you go to the internet computer, right? Nobody wanted to touch that. Nobody wanted to touch that, right? Or first you had email. Once you had email, it's like, okay, now email is going to be connected. And you're going to be able to communicate with all these people, and then you're going to be able to get into this World Wide Web. Because I want no parts of that, right? And then you hear that same thing now when people are like that with social media. Anything that's different, it's a change. It's But then once you start using whatever that tool is, then you just start seeing like, man, how that things have moved, how you progress, how you be able to operate more efficiently, and the returns that come from that, and the ways to collaborate and all that kind of stuff. You get to do all those things, but if not, right, you just stayed on that hamster wheel, just doing it 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, the way that you've always done it. And so I think that's the benefits to innovation.
Absolutely, for sure.
Now don't ask me, Eric, to say that again. It worked the first time. You ask me to say it again, it's not gonna say anything like that.
But now, I mean, I think, but I wanted you both to share insights on that, because it's so easy to become kind of married to the way you've been doing something, even if it's not serving you anymore. So hopefully that's something that people get from this episode, that we've got to pivot, we've got to become more innovative, and you can do it. Let's get back to this AI thing. This, Earl, whenever we talk about AI on these episodes, it seems like it gets a lot of buzz and a lot of interest. A lot of people are concerned about it. Where do you see AI going, and what should business leaders do to prepare?
I see AI is going to continue on this trajectory of insights, abilities, this expansiveness. So you may have heard super AI on some of the more research driven capabilities that are out there. Next week, I'm going to be at the NVIDIA conference in San Jose. So I'm getting ready to immerse myself yet again in that community of thought leadership. I would also say that AI is going to a place through agentic AI, where you have your own assistant, let's say, or specialist that is developed to do a certain strategic capability or ability. So I see it permeating itself throughout society. I don't necessarily believe that that is a bad thing. I think there are two sides to the conversation I normally hear. One is, what does AI mean? What will it mean for me as a human? Is it going to take away my job? Is it going to take away the way that I think? And will I be enslaved to this capability? And then the other is, how do I equip myself and put on this armor of productivity, of thought, right, to sift through the noise and get to a decision with precision, right? So I think it is two topics of consideration. I am of one that believes is productivity, and I believe that we will be able to do more, right? So, as Ted mentioned, some of the things that he was a part of through his career, I'm just gonna give you a quick example. I was a part of one of the contracts supporting the Hubble telescope when it was in development at NASA in Maryland. I remember I was a runner from the scientists on the floor to the basement of the analysts. Now, why was I running paper from the top floor to the bottom floors? Because email had not been defined yet. So if you replace the email capability that we all, I dare say, have fallen accustomed to using, replace email with AI, which means that now, instead of it taking 6 to 9 months to simulate what a launch and capability in space would look like, it may take 6 weeks, right? So, as we are exploring domains, as we are integrating domains, as we are getting to better, prayerfully, better decisions and more refined analysis, how is that bad? Now, that's just me talking, right? And it doesn't hurt that I'm in the AI business, but remember, I've said for impact. right? For purpose, not for profit, right? So I do believe it comes back to my father and his sage counsel. When you bring impact, you don't have to worry about reward,
Mm.
right? You don't have to worry about the balance sheet. So forgive me, that's a little bit more than what you asked, but I was just trying to tie it all into a corpus of AI is not bad. Now I will tell you what is bad. I'm on a soapbox, not paying attention to AI, complaining about AI, not being curious and understanding that you're already using AI right now. It doesn't matter if you have a cell phone, if your car has GPS, there's predictive analytics in healthcare. AI is all around, but it's not threatening because it has helped in many different ways. So it's like anything else throughout the age of time. It's all about perspective.
Yeah, I agree with you when you talk about the productivity aspect of AI. Like so earlier, like I've got a presentation that's coming up at this conference, right? So I went on chat and I said, okay, what questions are people asking about this topic? Gave me this whole list of questions, and then at the end it says, would you like for me to form this into content for the 30-minute hour podcast? I'm like, what?
Is that what it said?
That's what
Man,
it said. I never mentioned that I was the host of the 30-minute hour podcast in my
wow,
question or anything.
Now,
wow.
but what it's doing now, these models, is there's thread analysis. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
using the same thread, if you're using the same portal, you can tell it not to do this. It's learning you so that it can make that recommendation. And if you say yes, it is going to take a thematic analysis of your threads, your talking styles, your questions, your positions of defense. If you've ever written, how you feel about certain aspects, and it's going to weave that in so that it can represent you. And that productivity is, you want a work product for your consideration that is 85% of the things you would have lamented over 2 weeks. So now you get to do the other things. You get to tend to your household. You get to spend time with your family, right? You get to do whatever things that bring you joy, because the arduous aspect has been wrapped up into 5 minutes. I don't see that being bad.
I see that as we all want to go back to college because life would have been a lot easier. I'm telling you, if you had some of these tools that young people have or college students have at their fingertips now, to
Right.
be able to get information, to be able to help pull some thoughts together. Because oftentimes you just need something just to kind of get you going. That's the hardest part, right? Is to sit down and get going. And that's one of the things I hear people when they talk about AI. It's kind of like, I was able to get this. I was able to get these ideas and kind of get started. But you know, I don't know. I think I know how I am though about certain things. Like I think about, when I get in a car, Earl, like if it wasn't for navigation, like I don't think I could get any place. Like I found myself today, Eric. This is serious. I found myself today about to put in the navigation my office address. I said, "Whoa, what are you doing, man? You've only done this 1,000 times. You don't need that on your phone, right? I can't
Oh
remember
man.
any numbers, right? Unless it was something I had before I could, plug it in. So now when you start getting, I'm thinking, AI, and you got something that's kind of helping you get going like that. It's like, okay, you got to make sure, that it doesn't get you to a point you're just not doing a whole lot of thinking and you're just saying, hey, I'm going to grab this from AI and give this and present this. Because I think that there's still that part that you need to be, giving some thought to some things.
I would say this to that point, Ted. For me, it is, if you are task integrated with AI, then yes, your need to think is less, because it's giving you something, and there's a threat. There are components within the AI community with I'm sorry, drifting and hallucinations within AI, which is why you probably both have seen so much push. So don't believe everything that comes out. You still have to fact check. And that's for one side. When you're task oriented, you want to take whatever you get. The other side is going back to that innovative piece. right? So I may give AI something, Chat, GPT, Claude, what have you, and say, give me my blind spots, right? How can this be better? How does this compare to the average of what concepts are being pushed? I'm trying to use as a tool to push me and how I'm thinking. Prioritize over the last 15 years. What are the most prominent theories, and prioritize them in terms of impact, right? Which theory best suits what I'm trying to achieve, and should I be trying to achieve this? So now I'm trying to enlighten myself through the use of the technology. And I caution everyone to consider that. You will have a different experience with it, right? So that's my 2 cents when it comes to AI. It's nothing bad about it. It's like water. You know, they say too much of any one thing is bad, right? So use it as you want, but know what you want out of it. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I need to say this. And that is something the entire community needs to be pushing for our children, for our parents, for those who are anti change. No, no, no. You have to know it. You don't have to be proficient, but you have to know it. You have to get to a point when somebody gives you a work product to know whether or not it's AI driven. There are certain fluff words, there are certain trends, right? That you should be able to. You don't have to be an expert, but that's where we're going, because if you're not innovative within AI, no pun, then you're going to be left behind because of the group think that everybody is going to be coming to the community asking for one thing. Well, no, no, don't just give me one thing. Give me the best thing. And here's why I'm asking you this. Here are the atmospherics around this. You really want your engagement with innovation to be accretive for the development of the innovation and for the development of your self indoor mission. And I think that's what sets innovators apart from people who are consumers.
Mm. All right. You said a mouthful there.
That boy good.
so, so Earl, so now we're coming to this part of the show. Is Ted's favorite part of the show. It's called Write This Down. And this is where we each go around and give at least one idea that was mentioned or something that's a takeaway from today's episode that people need to write down so they can level up. So, Earl, you're our guest of honor. What do you think the people need to write down from today's show?
I'm going to be a little bit more thematic, and it's tied to who I am, from faith to impact. And I think that is a bracket for me, right? Grounded in faith. Don't allow society or the perception of uncertainty and the challenges of present day to drive your faith, right? Introduce current realities to your faith, not your faith to current realities, right? And through that, being laser focused on that impact of making a difference and being able to pivot. I'm trying to encompass, the theme of what we talked about here, from faith to impact. I think is what I would want my children to adopt and take with them as they continue to evolve.
Faith to impact. Yeah, I wrote that down. So, everybody, write that down. Earl, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Ted,
Man, it's a tough act to follow. I knew that though. Once you said you was bringing Earl on the show, I knew, I gotta have my A game. I had to bring my A game. So one, I just thank you for joining us and everything that you've shared. The foundation of everything being your faith, and that's something that we all agree on. But then going into we're moving like to the next piece of this is we start talking about like innovation, right? Like like you always be looking at how to build a better mousetrap, right? I always feel like you should always be thinking you're never there,
Right.
right? You're never there. You're always looking for ways to do better, to be more efficient, to do things faster, to get the how can you improve the results, right? And then when I start thinking about AI, I think AI is one of those things that's gonna help to kind of level the playing field a bit, right? Like at one point, you had subject matter expertise in a certain field because your experience was there. You went to school for that. You took classes in that, and now you have this tool at your fingertips now that you can be able to put together some things and almost as if you're an expert, right? And I just think that it's definitely gonna level the playing field. I mean, even to that next level. Like I think about the internet, right? Just being able to Google something. Here's the thing that I always share is kind of interesting to me, where it's like you can go to YouTube and there's always someone that has created a video about how to do stuff, and I'm like, who are these people? Who are these people in the world to just create a video of a how to do, it seems like just about everything. And now knowing that you have AI that's out there and just pulling from all this stuff and coming up with stuff. I mean, it's definitely leveling the playing field, right? So I think that knowing that you're never gonna get there, AI and things that they're talking about with quantum computing and all of that, these things are going to happen even faster and faster. It's going to do all this stuff, and it's again, to some it can be scary, but to others it can be really exciting, right? For all the possibilities that come from that. So again, Eric, that's another one of those things that don't ask me to say it again because I probably can't say it again. But yeah, I hope you wrote some of that down.
Write that down. All right, Ted. So we have Rudy Jackson. Speaking of AI, he says that AI repositions one's primary role from authorship to editorship.
It's true.
Great way to look at it.
It's true.
Thanks, Rudy. Thank you for sharing that. So my contribution for this piece, but Earl, when you said there are no accidents, that resonated with me, and I agree. So I have a client, and she was attending this conference, and she wanted to go to the leadership breakout session, but she went to the wrong room, and so she was sitting in the marketing section, and then she's like, oh God. So she gets up, but as she's getting up, the guy's mentioning an idea that she's been struggling with, and she ended up staying in the wrong room, and the idea she heard ended up making her thousands of dollars that she would not have made had she gone
That's
to
right.
the room that she
Wow.
thought she was supposed to be in.
That's right.
So that just goes to show that there are no accidents. You think you've made a wrong turn, but you're really where you should be.
Mm.
Yeah.
So write
Absolutely.
that down, Earl. Thank you for providing that inspiration today, and thank you for sharing everything
Yeah,
you've
man.
shared,
Yeah, man.
dropping all these boulders.
Well, I definitely appreciate the opportunity. It's I believe in the African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. Right. And I believe we're stronger together, sharing information, exposing one another. Ted, you talked about quantum. Our company is involved in quantum cryptography. Right. So
Mm.
whether it's homomorphic encryption or post quantum cryptography, we're dealing with some very important missions and seeking to bring those capabilities, and we're trying to be at the table of the future to craft the future, not react to the future. Right. And I will tell you, going back to my family, my wife, my father, they look at me and they say, hey, you can do it. So I think as a community of thought leaders, as a community of business owners, we have an obligation to tell all generate you can do it. And AI, quantum, data analytics, cyber, don't look at it as a commodity. Look at it as an accelerant. And if you do that, I'm on my soapbox again, I apologize, but there are so many things that we can do that we haven't even imagined, and it proves us to be innovators because we're outside of the box.
No, that's
And
great.
then
No,
Eric, don't ask me to say that again.
that's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
I see a theme developing here.
I don't know, Earl, you know, you were talking about faith throughout. I was just listening to you. I was about to say, Amen. Hey, no, this is great. This has been great.
Thank you.
Truly enjoyable episode. Absolutely.
I
So,
very much
so how can people connect with you if they want to get more information on your company? And
Sure. The company Aperio Global, aperiogglobal.com is the website. You can follow us on LinkedIn. You know, we're there as well as a company. Myself, Earl Stafford Jr. On LinkedIn. I look forward to connecting with any and all. And one thing that you will get connecting with me is I'm going to share information. I'm going to share organizations that we're a part of. I'm going to share think tanks that we are aware of. My only job is to give and open and expose information that I have, and prayerfully others will do the same. Once again, we're stronger together.
great. Earl Stafford Jr., once again, thank you for sharing what you
Yeah.
shared. Speaking of sharing, those of you listening and watching, don't forget to share the
Share the
show.
show. Share the show.
That's right. Don't keep this great information a secret. Also, don't forget you can follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any of those podcasting platforms. That way, you'll never miss a future episode. And that's our time for this week's episode. And until next time, have a great one.